Think back to when you were a child, not just the age, but waking up during the summer without an alarm and playing barefoot in the grass. Building forts out of blankets and pillows and pretending they were castles. Drawing with crayons like your imagination had no boundaries. Back then, you didn't need a plan. You didn't even need permission. You just followed what felt exciting. Maybe you wanted to be a firefighter, or a pilot, an astronaut, an inventor, a rock star. And the best part, you actually believed you would. You didn't think in probabilities. You didn't ask, will this pay well? You just said, that's what I'm going to be. Because dreaming wasn't strategic. It was instinct. It was who we were. And when someone asked what you wanted to be, you didn't hesitate. Because belief came before doubt. Curiosity came before caution. And that energy, that bold, creative certainty that your life could be something more, that's what I call the flame of hope. It's the inner fire that drives us to try before we're ready, to build before you're qualified, to imagine even when it doesn't make sense. We're all born with it, but most people lose it. And not because they want to, not because they lack potential, but because the world convinces them to shrink. You say your dream or idea out loud, and someone smirks. They say, be realistic, or that's already been done before. And something changes. You shrink your dream to fit the environment. You adjust. You aim lower. You make your dreams quieter so they're easier to defend. But here is the shift no one talks about. As children, we don't need permission to think big. But as adults, it's expected we pick ambitions that are reasonable, measurable, and secure. So what do? We shrink the dream to fit the environment. We trade that flame for something safer, something more predictable. And the tragedy, the flame doesn't die from failure. It dies from overthinking, from hesitation, from waiting for someone else to justify something you already know deep down. I always looked at things a little bit differently than others. As a kid, I wasn't chasing approval. I was chasing ideas. At 8 years old, I was making YouTube videos. No one was watching, but I knew someday they might. Then, in elementary school, I began building things out of cardboard. Phones, computers, prototypes. They didn't do anything, but to me, they were real. I even started giving these out to other kids at school because I loved the process of creating something and watching it spark excitement in someone else. Shortly after, I became the school's unofficial tech guy, fixing school computers, teacher Chromebooks, and Wi-Fi routers. It was going great until the school shut me down. A little upset about that one. Then I got it in my head, I wanted to be a fighter pilot. So naturally, I started wearing a suit to school. Not ironically, not for attention, but because I knew that's how future leaders carried themselves. Looking back, it was weird, but it also makes sense because the common thread weren't the ideas or the phases. It was the need to take ideas seriously, even if no one else did. And with every new idea came the same common denominator. There were whispers, eye rolls, and laughter. And honestly, there still are. Because that same mindset followed me to college, where now I major in music performance and mechanical engineering. What a crazy combination. To most, but to me, it made sense because it wasn't about picking just one path. It was about seeing how far I could stretch the idea that you don't need to fit neatly in just one box. Today, I run a company that helps businesses grow. But what really drives me is helping people grow. Clients, teammates, and partners. It's all still powered by that same flame, that same drive to build, to question, to create. And through all of it, the laughs and the judgment have never left. People will always have something to say when you think differently. I mean, that's how you have to gauge whether or not you're doing it right. We're taught to grow out of naivety, to play it safe, to be practical. But naivety is an edge if you know how to use it. Naive people move before they know all the risks. They build before the market says yes. The Wright brothers, not aerospace engineers, just bike mechanics with a dream. They believed humans could fly. And because they didn't know it was impossible, they figured it out. And think about that. Flight is now part of our daily lives. It's how we travel, how we connect, how we move across the world in hours rather than weeks. Now imagine the world without it, because without their flame, that's when we'd still be living in. Then there's Walt Disney. He was fired from a newspaper for lacking creativity. His first animation company failed, and when he pitched Disneyland, over 300 investors said no. Too expensive, too risky, too unrealistic. But he saw something they couldn't. And now, it's not just a theme park. It's an economy, a culture. It's modern-day entertainment. To build on that, there's Colonel Sanders, founder of KFC. He didn't always have the easiest life. At the age of 6 years old, his father passed away, and his outlet to support his family was through cooking. After a short stint in the military, and then the failure of his first company, he found himself retired with nothing but a loan for $87 and a damn good fried chicken recipe. So what he began doing is going around to local restaurants and pitching him the idea of, I have this fryer, let's cook chicken out of your restaurant so I can sell it. As you can imagine, he was told no. He wasn't just told no one time or 302 times like Walt Disney was. He was told no 1,009 times. But the 1,010th time, that one yes. Look at what he built. That's what happens when you protect your flame long enough for the world to catch up. Here's the thing. Every great invention, every great company, and every great leap start out looking naive. Steve Jobs said, a lot of times, people don't know what they want until you show it to them. And if you think about it, that's a very childlike way of building. It's not about what's the market ready for. It's about what would be awesome to make. What would I want to exist in the world? Childlike creativity doesn't follow rules. It makes its own. And the truth is, every industry you admire, from tech, fashion, music, architecture, aerospace, they were pushed forward by people who weren't afraid to look foolish. As kids, we build without permission. We sketch in the margins. We turn shoeboxes into cities and cardboard into companies. That's not immaturity. That's innovation. Because the world doesn't change because someone waited until they had it all figured out. It changes when someone says, this should exist, and then goes out and actually builds it. So let me ask you, what would you do if you knew you couldn't fail? If you dropped the doubt, ignored the whispers, and gave your flame permission to burn again? What would you build? What would you start today? Your flame, it might flicker. It may even be buried. But it's not gone. You don't need clarity. You need momentum. Because the people who let their flame go out, they live with regret. But those who protect it, who feed it, even when it's hard, they don't just imagine the future, they build it. Thank you.